In the event of a nuclear bomb, the first thing to do is to get inside the nearest building. Get as far away from the windows as possible. A basement is usually the best place to find shelter. Staying in a sturdy building far away from the windows will reduce your radiation exposure and improve your chances of survival. Prepare for a nuclear bomb blast. The first step in preparing for a nuclear bomb blast is to identify a safe place. The designated area can be a room, building, or area of everyday living. Outdoor areas, such as a garage, aren't ideal because they don't offer adequate shelter during a nuclear explosion. Alternatively, a basement or middle room may be your best bet. Whatever you do, make sure you shield pets and keep at least 6 feet away from other people. If you're going to stay for a long time, you'll need to stock up on non-perishable food. You'll also want to stock up on emergency medicines and batteries. Crucially, it's important to keep calm. If you're in a public building, listen to instructions to get to a hospital or shelter. A nuclear explosion can cause significant destruction and serious injuries. The area where it occurs will be exposed to high radiation levels, and people in close proximity to the blast site may develop radiation sickness. It could take hours or days before the effects begin to show. Get inside the nearest building. If you are outside during a nuclear blast, the first thing to do is to seek shelter inside the nearest building. If you're not able to get inside, try to find a safe place to hide. Even if you're inside, try to hide in a deep recess. Avoid looking out of windows and cover your head with your hands. Buildings that are made of timber, fiber cement, and other such materials will not survive the blast. It's best to remain inside larger structures, as these are less likely to collapse or be impacted by the blast. However, you can still get injured. If you do end up outside, try to open your jaw. The blast will send toxic particles up into the air, which will contaminate everything in its path. This toxic radioactive dust can be inhaled for hours or even days. Depending on the yield and height of the blast, a person can be exposed to radiation for up to 25 kilometers. If you see a nuclear fireball, it's best to get under cover as quickly as possible. It's better to be underground, or in a building built of concrete or brick. The longer you stay inside the building, the lower the radiation dose will be. If your shelter is too small or too close from the explosion, get out quickly and find a new shelter. Why stay away from windows? During a nuclear blast, the best place to hide is away from windows. If you're in a structure without a bomb shelter, the basement is the best place to go. Otherwise, find a room without windows and board them up. If you're outside, be sure to wear clean clothes and cover your face and mouth with a mask. Also, avoid touching your face with your hands or arms. After the initial detonation, there's still a chance of being injured. This is because the air blast moves outward. It will cause damage to windows, roofs, and other structures. However, this damage is less severe than if you were outside. If you're able to move away from the window, you'll have more time to evacuate. It will take about 15 minutes for radioactive fallout to reach the ground. If you live in a multi-story building, stay on the lower floors and avoid the top floor. If you're in a room with windows, ensure that the windows are closed and that no outside air is allowed in. After a nuclear blast, the fallout can stay in the area for up to 24 hours. The most reliable shelter is the basement. A basement is one of the best places to find safety during an emergency. While basements aren't very insulated, they are still a safe haven. The smallest nuclear weapons are unlikely to affect them. This means that you won't be exposed to radiation and will remain safe in your basement. Basements aren't the safest place to get trapped in a nuclear blast, but they are very safe from the fallout that would be produced by such a blast. However, there are a few important considerations that you need to keep in mind before converting your basement into a safe haven. First of all, you'll need to make sure the air quality is good. You can live without food or water for days, but if you don't have enough oxygen, you could die within 3 minutes. Second, it's important to find a shelter with adequate protection against radiation. Besides the basement, you should also look for a building that has bathtubs, toilets, and storage rooms. If you live in an area that is susceptible to a nuclear explosion, you should look for a building that's made of concrete and not wood. It can be one of the safest places for shelter because it's sheltered from blast waves, radiation, and debris. Caution on taking potassium iodide for a nuclear blast. Potassium iodide, Ki, is a chemical used to prevent internal contamination from radioactive radiation. While it is not toxic, taking too much radioactive iodide can cause harm to the thyroid gland. The thyroid is a butterfly-shaped gland in the front of the neck that produces hormones. Because the thyroid can't tell the difference between radioiodine and regular iodine, too much exposure can lead to thyroid cancer. Potassium iodide saturates the thyroid gland, blocking radioiodine from reaching it. Potassium iodide is sold in foil-sealed packs. However, it should be taken only on the advice of a healthcare professional. The drug is also available in both tablet and liquid forms. A typical dose is 1 tablet every 24 hours. However, taking more than 1 tablet in the same 24-hour period can increase the likelihood of side effects. The United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, has released final guidance on potassium iodide in radiation emergencies. This guidance was designed to help state and local governments to ensure that potassium iodide is safe for use during radiological emergencies. It also outlines how potassium iodide can be used as a thyroid blocker in such an event. Lie face down if you're outside. If you're outside during a nuclear blast, the first thing to do is to lie face down. This way, you'll be shielded from the radiation while you take cover. The best place to find safety is a reinforced bunker. However, the next best place to hide is a small bathroom or laundry room. These areas tend to be relatively dry and have internal walls that reflect the incoming shock wave, which doubles the pressure. If possible, avoid the side of the building where the explosion occurred. If you're outside during a nuclear explosion, get under cover behind a building or something that offers protection from the blast. Lie face down so that your face and arms don't get exposed to radiation. Avoid touching your face, mouth, or eyes. Cover your head with a hood or hand. In the event of a nuclear blast, the best place to hide is in a building with little to no windows, a basement, or indoors. If you are inside a building with windows, take cover in the middle and avoid the top and bottom floors. It is also important to keep your head covered by a hood or hand to avoid radiation. In the immediate aftermath of a nuclear blast, you should stay indoors for 24 hours to minimize your exposure. During this time, remember to listen to the radio or television for information about evacuation procedures. During this time, it is also important not to touch your face or body, or touch your hands and feet. In addition, wear clean clothes to avoid radiation contact with your face. During the first minute after the bomb's release, about half of the gamma rays are released. The remaining half remains in the atmosphere for 1 minute. If you can't find shelter near a wall, cover your head with a hood or hand. During the mushroom cloud phase, radiation levels stay low for 1 minute and fall back toward the ground. Use a respirator and other survival kits. If you are warned of an imminent nuclear blast, it is imperative that you take the necessary steps to stay safe. The first thing that you must do is find shelter in a building, preferably one made of brick or concrete. You should also cover your head and nose with a mask. If you are outside, stay away from windows, doors, and other openings. If you cannot find a building, try to hide in a basement or inside a densely shielded room. Another important thing to remember when preparing to survive a nuclear blast is to wear the proper protective gear. Make sure to place your protective gear in a bag and secure it. If you are outside, you can also tape up areas that are vulnerable. You must change your raincoat and respirator every 8 to 10 hours. It is also vital to wash off any particles that have touched your skin and lungs. The second step is to make an emergency plan with your family. It is essential to know where to meet and where to go when you are separated by a nuclear blast. Not knowing whether or not your loved ones are okay is a greater source of stress than enduring the blast. Make sure that you have enough food, water, and essential medications. The US government recommends that every American family put together a survival kit in case of an emergency.